Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving deep today into a book that is, well, truly pivotal in the Harry Potter series.
Definitely.
A real turning point, wouldn't you say? It moves us squarely into darker, more complex, and really emotionally resonant territory. We're talking about Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Such a key book.
Yeah, so this is Harry's third year arriving at Hogwarts, but right from the jump, you can feel a definite shift in the atmosphere.
Oh, absolutely.
The stakes feel significantly higher than they did in the first two books. There's a real shadow looming, not just vaguely over the wizarding world, but very specifically, very personally, over Harry himself.
Absolutely. And the engine driving that rising tension, the central mystery that propels the entire narrative, is the escape of Sirius Black from Azkaban prison.
Right.
Now, for you listening, you know this is huge, but let's really dig into why his escape sends such a shockwave of terror through the wizarding world.
Yeah, what's the big deal?
And maybe more importantly for the story, why everyone immediately fixates on the idea that he is after Harry. That fundamental question is what this deep dive will unravel, guiding us through the intricate plot twists and introducing us to characters who will, well, forever change Harry's understanding of his past and himself.
Exactly. And to unravel all of this, to really understand the layers packed into this book, we've pulled together a stack of sources. We've got everything from, like, academic analyses looking at the underlying ethics of fantasy characters and, you know, the structure of this secondary world.
Which is fascinating stuff.
It really is. And then we've got candid fan discussions and theories that offer some pretty interesting alternative perspectives.
Yeah, the fan takes are always good.
Totally. And of course, detailed excerpts pulled directly from the text itself. We're going to weave these together to give you the fullest possible picture of what makes Prisoner of Azkaban such a crucial and impactful story.
Sounds great.
So let's start right there with the man whose name is kind of on the cover, in a way, and who is the immediate source of all this fear. Sirius Black. Our sources introduce him as the most infamous prisoner ever held within the supposedly impregnable fortress of Azkaban. Just hearing the details of his conviction sets a chilling tone, doesn't it?
It really does.
He was convicted, as our sources confirm, of killing 13 people, 1 wizard, and 12 muggles with a single curse. That paints a picture of horrifying, indiscriminate power.
It absolutely does. And his escape isn't just any breakout. It's presented as completely unprecedented and deeply alarming to the Ministry of Magic and subsequently the entire wizarding community.
Right. Nobody's ever done it before.
Exactly. The initial intelligence, based on the widespread belief about his loyalty to Voldemort, is that he was effectively the heir apparent to the Dark Lord.
Wow.
So his escape is interpreted as a potentially catastrophic sign, perhaps the first move in Voldemort's return, or at very least a major destabilization of the fragile peace that's been in place since Harry's survival.
And adding to that terror, personalizing it immediately for Harry, is that chilling detail overheard by the Azkaban guards.
Oh yeah, that bit.
Black was muttering in his sleep over and over, "He's at Hogwarts. He's at Hogwarts."
Makes you chills, doesn't it?
It does. This little detail, reported back, immediately zeroes in on Harry and completely shatters any sense of absolute safety, even within the thick, ancient walls of the school grounds that usually feel so secure.
Right. So the initial overwhelming perception of Black, based solely on this information, the conviction, the escape, the overheard phrase, is that he is an incredibly dangerous, escaped mass murderer who is now actively pursuing Harry.
Makes sense from their point of view, I guess.
Yeah, the logic, flawed as we later find out, is that Harry's survival was directly linked to Voldemort's downfall, and that perceived downfall was also seen as Black's downfall, as his master was defeated.
So Harry's a target for revenge.
Exactly. That's the thinking. The text itself underscores the adult wizarding world's fear. Arthur Weasley, discussing Black with Harry early on, is described as looking extremely grave, which really tells you everything about the level of concern.
Yeah, that's a powerful image. But it is interesting and perhaps a little surprising for you as the listener revisiting this to see Harry's initial reaction to this news. When he first hears that this infamous killer might be after him, he isn't immediately paralyzed with the same kind of dread the adults feel.
No, he's surprisingly calm, isn't he?
He is. His thought process, as revealed in the text, is that the safest place for him to be is wherever Albus Dumbledore is.
Trust in Dumbledore.
Totally.
Yeah.
He figures if Dumbledore was the only person Voldemort ever feared, surely Black, as Voldemort's alleged right-hand man, would be just as frightened of him. This unwavering confidence in Dumbledore, even when faced with a perceived killer targeting him, is a really sharp contrast to the fear gripping everyone else and shows Harry's immense faith in his headmaster.
It really does. And that widespread fear in the adult world is physically embodied by the new, terrifying guards brought in to protect Hogwarts from Black.
The Dementors.
Yeah. These are the actual guards of Azkaban itself, and their presence patrolling the grounds of the school is a visceral signal of just how severe the Ministry believes the threat to be.
They are truly dreadful creatures. The description of their nature is profoundly unsettling. They don't attack with spells. They, feed on happiness.
Yeah, it's horrible. They literally suck the peace, warmth, and any sense of hope right out of the air around you.
And their effects are immediate, debilitating, and deeply personal. As Source 6 describes it, the air turns intensely, unnaturally cold.
Right, that chilling cold.
A wave of sheer, overwhelming cold sweeps over you, leaving you weak, shivery, and with this profound, suffocating sense that you'll never feel cheerful again, that all joy has just been extinguished.
What makes them uniquely terrifying, though, is their psychological impact. They don't just drain happiness. They force you to relive your worst memories, your deepest trauma.
Yeah.
For Harry, this means hearing the exact screams of his mother as she died protecting him from Voldemort. It's a deeply personal, agonizing form of torment that targets his most profound loss. It's just awful.
The Dementors function as incredibly powerful symbols within the book's narrative. They represent despair, the crushing weight of trauma, and the debilitating impact of unresolved loss. The story uses them brilliantly to explore themes of fear and how individuals grapple with profound emotional pain. It's notable that Harry's reaction to them is uniquely strong, far more severe than most of his classmates.
Right, he faints on the train.
Exactly. And this initially leads him to feel shame, thinking there's something wrong with him because others don't seem to suffer as intensely.
Even though Ginny clearly does too.
Right, though we do see Ginny Weasley, still recovering from her trauma in the previous book, also suffering significantly from their presence. Even characters like Stan Shunpike, the conductor on the night bus, a relatively tough wizard.
Yeah.
He admits that the Azkaban guards give him the collywobbles just talking about them, highlighting their pervasive terror.
So even seasoned wizards are scared. That says a lot.
Their deployment at Hogwarts, supposedly the safest place in the wizarding world for the specific threat of one escaped prisoner. It does raise interesting questions about the broader wizarding justice system, doesn't it?
It really does.
One fan commentary we encountered, Source 8, wondered, maybe a bit tongue-in-cheek, but still thought-provoking, if Dementors are used to patrol for basic crimes like shoplifting.
Probably not.
Probably not. But this kind of commentary, even if it's not literal fact in the story, it highlights just how extreme their presence at Hogwarts is perceived to be, even if the official reason is the escape of a seemingly unrepentant mass murderer. It makes you think about the Ministry's go-to methods for security,
Yeah, it's a heavy-handed approach, and Dumbledore's stance on the Dementors within the castle is very firm, stating emphatically in Source 6 that no Dementor will cross the threshold of this castle while I am headmaster.
Such a powerful line.
It is, delivered with immense power and authority. It underscores his role as the ultimate protector of Hogwarts. But the very fact that these soul-sucking creatures are needed on the grounds at all, patrolling the entrances, emphasizes the true gravity and perceived severity of the threat Sirius Black represents.
Okay, stepping away from the purely terrifying for a moment, let's talk about one of the most, I think, universally beloved characters introduced in this book.
Ah, yes.
And one who becomes absolutely crucial to Harry's journey. Professor Remus Lupin.
Lupin, great character.
He arrives as the new defense against the dark arts teacher, and after Harry, Ron, and Hermione's experiences with Quirrell, Lockhart.
Oh, God, Lockhart.
Chuckles, don't remind me. And, whatever Snape was doing, filling in.
Yeah.
They are so due for a good deity teacher. And Lupin, as our sources in the text make clear, is drastically different.
He truly stands out from the moment he arrives. He's described in Source 8 as the best teacher Harry's had so far for the subject.
High praise, considering the others.
Definitely. Making data absolutely fascinating, a description you certainly wouldn't apply to the previous instructors. A prime example of his effective and, I think, empathetic teaching style is the Bogart lesson.
Oh, the Bogart lesson is classic.
It really is. He teaches the students not just to defeat a Bogart, but to confront the manifestation of their deepest fear and, crucially, turn it into something manageable and even funny.
ridiculous.
Exactly. The image of turning Snape's boggart into him wearing Neville Grand's clothes is just iconic and highlights Lupin's ability to use humor and wit as a tool against fear.
But Lupin's significance goes far beyond just teaching spells, right?
Oh, absolutely. He provides Harry with something incredibly valuable, crucial guidance, and really for the first time, genuine insight into his parents' past.
Which Harry desperately needs.
Exactly. We learn he was part of a tight-knit group of friends during his own time at Hogwarts. Harry's father, James Potter, Sirius Black, and Peter Pettigrew. This connection is absolutely vital for Harry, who has grown up knowing virtually nothing about his parents' lives or who they truly were.
And his most crucial lesson for Harry is the one that directly equips him to fight the Dementors. The Patronus charm.
Yes, the Patronus. This isn't just another spell, it's a deep dive into overcoming despair. Lupin teaches Harry that conjuring a corporeal Patronus requires intense concentration on a single, powerful, genuinely happy memory.
It's about inner strength, not just magic words.
Precisely. It's a magical defense rooted in emotional strength and the power of positive memory, teaching Harry how to actively generate hope to combat the soul-draining despair of the Dementors.
As for Lupin's character himself, he's depicted as kind, patient, and wise, though often appearing tired or worn down.
Yeah, there's a sadness about him.
There is. He clearly carries a secret as lycanthropy, though this isn't revealed immediately. He's seen by the characters and discussed by fans as a calming presence, a guardian figure. Notably, one fan perspective we saw, from Source 3, highlights how Lupin is initially perceived as more of a father figure to Harry than Sirius Black is when he eventually enters Harry's life.
That's an interesting point. He's certainly more stable initially.
Right, which is a fascinating take on their dynamic.
There's also compelling fan commentary, also in Source 3, that sees Lupin as potentially symbolizing real-world issues related to stigma, prejudice, and persecution.
Because he's a werewolf.
Exactly. Due to the secrecy surrounding his condition and the fear and discrimination werewolves face in the wizarding world, this interpretation reinforces the book's capacity for exploring deeper social themes beneath the magic.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But one particularly interesting point raised by fan analysis, again from Source 3, is a somewhat controversial question about Lupin's own judgment.
Oh, what's that?
They wonder why Lupin assumed Sirius was guilty of the Potter's murder and the betrayal for a full 13 years without ever questioning it, especially given their incredibly close friendship as Marauders. This perspective points out that Lupin only immediately accepted Sirius's innocence the moment Peter Pettigrew was found alive.
That's a fair criticism, actually. You'd think he might have had some doubt over those years.
Right. It adds another complex layer to Lupin as a character. He's not portrayed as infallible or always making the right judgments, even someone as kind and wise as he seems. It shows how deep the belief in Sirius's guilt ran.
Absolutely. Now, this book also introduces one of the most iconic magical items in the entire series.
Oh, I know you're going to say.
And one that becomes absolutely central to the plot. Marauder's map.
Yes, a map. It's gifted to Harry by Fred and George Weasley, who claim they acquired it from Filch's office.
Chuckles acquired, yes.
Yeah.
And when it's inactive, it's completely indistinguishable from any other large blank parchment, as Source 9 puts it.
Just a piece of old paper.
Right. It's a brilliant piece of hidden magic, lying dormant unless you know the secret to awaken it.
I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
That's the one. You tap it with your wand and utter that now famous phrase. The intricate map of Hogwarts and its grounds then appears, showing not just the layout, but the real-time locations and names of everyone within the castle walls.
It's incredible.
And to hide it again, you tap it and say, "Mischief managed." It's the ultimate tool for rule-breaking, a piece of counter-surveillance specifically designed, we later learn, to evade the likes of Filch and other authority figures.
And its origin story is just fascinating, isn't it?
It really is.
It was created by Harry's father, James Potter, known as Prongs, along with his closest friends, Sirius Black, Padfoot, Remus Lupin, Moony, and Peter Pettigrew, Wormtail, during their own time at Hogwarts.
Marauders.
Marauders. This reveals so much about Harry's parents and their circle, showing they weren't just studious, they were inventive and definitely mischievous.
Extremely inventive. The map functions as a significant narrative device, as Source 17 calls it, beyond just helping Harry sneak into Hogsmeade when he doesn't have a signed permission form.
Right, which is his first major use for Harry.
True. But it literally reveals secrets about Hogwarts and its inhabitants, showing their true identities, even if they're disguised, like showing Peter Pettigrew's name even when he's in his animagus form.
That's the key part, isn't it?
It is. Although one fan theory we saw in Source 17 debated if the map truly shows identity through any disguise, or if it's merely showing the person despite the disguise.
Interesting distinction.
Yeah, perhaps highlighting a limitation of certain magical deceptions like Polyjuice Potion, rather than the map's omniscience. Regardless, it's a powerful tool for uncovering hidden truths in this story.
The fan perspective on the map's creation often highlights it as an insane piece of magic, according to Source 17, for mere students to have created.
You have to agree, really.
It demonstrates the sheer scale of magical prowess that the Marauders possessed even in their youth, hinting at their talent and inventive spirit beyond just being clever rule breakers.
But most crucially for the plot of Prisoner of Azkaban, the map becomes the key that unlocks the central mystery. Harry starts seeing Peter Pettigrew's name, Wormtail, moving around on the map within Hogwarts.
And he has no idea who that is at first.
None at all. Initially, he's confused, thinking it's a glitch or perhaps someone else using the name, completely unaware that Pettigrew has been hiding in plain sight for 12 years as Ron's pet rat, Scabbers.
Mind-blowing when you think about it.
It really is. This is the first tangible clue that challenges the established narrative about Sirius Black.
And all these separate threads, Sirius's escape, the Dementors, Lupin's connection to the past, Harry's fear, and the revelation on the Marauder's map, they all converge dramatically in the book's climax at the Shrieking Shack.
Yeah, that whole sequence is intense.
Harry, Ron, and Hermione follow Sirius Black, who they've seen transform from a large dog, his animagus form, after he attacked Ron and dragged him into the Whomping Willow.
Right.
They find Lupin already there, having also tracked Black. And then, just to make things even more chaotic, Severus Snape arrives.
Of course Snape arrives.
Having followed Harry, ready to capture Black, and just radiating this intense, deeply rooted, long-standing hatred for Sirius that becomes starkly clear in this scene.
This chaotic, high-tension scene is where the complex, intertwined histories of these characters are finally painstakingly revealed. Sirius Black and Remus Lupin, cornered and desperate to explain, lay it all bare.
They have to, really.
They explain that they, James Potter and Peter Pettigrew, were the Marauders, the creators of the map. They became Animagia James as a stag, Sirius as a large dog, and Peter as a rat.
Which explains the nicknames. Prongs, Padfoot, Wormtail.
Exactly. And Moony for Lupin's condition. They became Animagi specifically so they could safely accompany Lupin during his werewolf transformations outside the castle. This act of loyalty, transforming themselves to support their friend through his painful secret, paints a very different picture of their youth than the one Snape might offer.
A much better picture. And then comes the core, devastating revelation of the betrayal. We learn that Peter Pettigrew, the seemingly harmless, cowardly rapscabbers, was the Potter's secret keeper.
Not Sirius.
Not Sirius, as the entire wizarding world believed. Peter was the one who betrayed their location to Voldemort. In a tragic, heartbreaking twist of irony, Sirius had actually suspected himself might be targeted by Voldemort and urged James and Lily to switch secret keepers to Peter.
Oh, it's so awful.
Believing Peter was unassuming enough to be safe, while Sirius would act as a decoy, drawing attention away. He never dreamed Peter was already loyal to Voldemort.
Just gut-wrenching. And Peter's elaborate, cowardly scheme to fake his own death and frame Sirius is detailed here, too.
Ooh.
Yeah, how did he pull that off again?
Well, after Voldemort's attack on the Potters, Sirius tracked Peter down on a street. Peter caused a massive explosion with a powerful curse, blasting the street apart and killing 13 Muggles.
The crime Sirius was convicted of.
Exactly. A horrific act of destruction that mirrored Sirius's conviction. To make it look undeniably like he was the victim, the only thing left of him, he cut off his own finger.
Before transforming into his rat-animagus form, Scabbers, and disappearing into the sewers. Source 6 also adds a layer of nuance. He wasn't just hiding from Sirius, he was also hiding from Voldemort's remaining Death Eaters.
Why them?
Well, they might have seen him as a double-crosser for being present when Voldemort was defeated, or perhaps they suspected his role. Hiding as a pet rat was the perfect, ignominious escape from everyone.
Wow. This entire sequence at the Shrieking Shack introduces immense complexity to characters previously seen in much simpler black and white terms. Sirius Black is revealed not as the monstrous mass murderer everyone believes,
Not at all.
but as an innocent man, framed by a cowardly friend who suffered unjustly for 12 years in the soul-draining prison of Azkaban.
It's a massive turnaround. But even with this dramatic revelation of his innocence in the main crime, fan discussions acknowledge that Sirius's character isn't presented as perfect or without controversy.
Right, the Snape incident.
Exactly. Opinions among readers, as mentioned in Source 2, are often divided on his actions during his youth, particularly the incident where he tried to trick Snape into going to the Shrieking Shack during Lupin's werewolf transformation, which could have had fatal consequences for Snape.
That was definitely not okay.
No. This specific incident leads to debates about whether Sirius, despite being framed, was genuinely awful in his youth, or if the fandom's strong positive image of him is perhaps overly romanticized, overlooking some of his less admirable past deeds. It challenges the idea of a simple hero.
Yeah, he's flawed, like real people. And Snape's character is also significantly deepened in this scene. His intense, blinding hatred for Sirius and James is laid bare, fueled by years of past grievances and humiliation dating back to their school days.
You really feel that bitterness.
The text makes it clear that even James saving his life from Lupin didn't extinguish that deep animosity. Fan analyses, like in Source 12, dive deep into Snape's motivations, especially in light of later books, but this book firmly establishes the complexity. The debate in Source 12 on whether Snape is ultimately a hero, redeemed solely by his love for Lily, or simply a vindictive bastard who was cruel to students but happened to play a crucial role against Voldemort, really finds its roots here.
That debate never ends, does it?
Never. The comparison in Source 12 between his Boggart being Neville's Grand's clothes and Harry's being a Dementor is discussed as representing fundamentally different kinds of fear, perhaps the fear of humiliation or perceived failure versus the profound existential fear of trauma and despair.
That's a great point. And then finally, there is Peter Pettigrew. He is unequivocally revealed as the true villain of this part of the story, the ultimate betrayer, the embodiment of cowardice.
The Gabbers.
Yeah. He lived a craven existence, hiding for 12 years as a pet rat, benefiting from the love and care of the Weasley family while the man he framed suffered immensely.
It's just sickening.
Even his desperate plea to Harry for mercy in the Shrieking Shack, appealing to James's memory and friendship, comes across less as genuine remorse and more as a desperate, manipulative attempt to survive, highlighting his self-serving nature.
He just wants to save his own skin.
Pretty much. This entire extended sequence is a powerful masterclass in exploring loyalty, betrayal, and the difficult truth that perceived good and evil are far more complex than they might initially appear in a simple narrative.
Totally. The man everyone thought was a cold-blooded killer is revealed to be an innocent hero, and the seemingly harmless, unassuming pet rat is exposed as the true, cowardly traitor. It forces the reader and Harry to reevaluate everything they thought they knew.
Adding yet another layer of complexity and narrative ingenuity to the book's climax is the introduction of a powerful and frankly mind-bending magical artifact called the Time Turner.
Ah, yes, the Time Turner, Hermione's little secret.
Exactly. Hermione has been in possession of one throughout the year, ostensibly to manage her impossibly demanding class schedule. Our sources mention she is overworked and taking many classes, and possesses and uses the Time Turner, implying the connection.
Though they don't spell it out immediately, right?
Yeah, but not explicitly stated she got it for the classes until later clarification, but the implication is strong.
But it's true. Dramatic potential is unleashed in the climax. After the chaotic revelations in the Shrieking Shack, events spiral out of control. Peter Pettigrew escapes capture.
So frustrating.
Lupin transforms into a werewolf. Sirius is captured by the Dementors and sentenced to the horrifying Dementor's kiss, and Buckbeak the Hippogriff is condemned to execution by the Ministry.
It all goes wrong so fast.
It does. In the face of this overwhelming injustice and loss, Dumbledore, with his characteristic enigmatic wisdom, suggests to Harry and Hermione that they use the Time Turner to save more than one innocent life.
A classic Dumbledore hint.
Totally. They use it to turn back the clock exactly 3 hours, effectively giving them a chance to revisit and intervene in the very events they just experienced.
And what is absolutely fascinating and a key point of analysis in our sources, like Source 17, is the specific nature of time travel presented in this book. It follows what's often referred to as a single timeline model. Meaning that Harry and Hermione going back in time wasn't creating some alternate reality or branching timeline. No, their trip back in time was always how the events were meant to happen. Their actions in the past are the established history.
Whoa, okay. So it's a closed loop.
Exactly. Source 17 points this out clearly. They always went back in time and saved Buckbeak, which is precisely why Buckbeak mysteriously disappeared from the execution site just before his scheduled execution the first time Harry and Ron experienced it, before they used the time turner.
Right, I remember being confused by that.
And they always went back and cast the incredibly powerful corporeal Patronus charm by the lake that saved both Harry and Sirius from the overwhelming swarm of Dementors. Their actions when they travel back aren't changing history, they are fulfilling it.
That hurts my brain a little bit.
Chuckles.
It's meant to. This single timeline model introduces some incredibly intriguing philosophical implications that are debated in our sources, like 13 and 15. Some analyses argue that this type of time travel inherently eliminates free will, suggesting that events are essentially predetermined since the past, cannot be truly altered, only experienced and enacted in a way that was always going to happen. If you were always going to go back and do something, did you truly have a choice not to?
That's the big question. Others, also in source 13 and 17, argue that characters still exercise free will within the constraints of that single timeline. They make choices based on their knowledge and motivations, and those choices lead to them going back in time, which then becomes part of the predetermined sequence.
It's a choice within destiny.
Kind of. It's a complex loop of causality and choice. Source 17 specifically raises the potential for paradox, but resolves it through this consistent single timeline model, where any action taken in the past was always part of the past.
Okay. And the introduction of the time turner also impacts the broader wizarding world lore, doesn't it? Raises questions about how such powerful tools could be used ethically.
Definitely. And what it implies about history and knowledge. Source 15 notes that while this type of deterministic time travel appears again in later canon, like the play Cursed Child,
Which got complicated.
right, which does involve attempts to create alternate disastrous timelines by trying to change the past, the narrative in Prisoner of Azkaban very cleverly keeps its use contained and circular. It's specifically to avoid sprawling historical paradoxes or unintended changes. It's a self-contained loop that serves the immediate plot without breaking the fundamental rules of the universe established within this book.
Smart writing.
Very. Let's circle back now and really focus on Harry's personal journey through this, particularly his battle with fear and finding inner strength. Okay. It is incredibly telling, as pointed out in Source 8, that Harry's Bobbert, the magical manifestation of his absolute deepest fear, takes the form of a Dementor.
Not Voldemort.
Not Voldemort, the murderer of his parents, the source of his scar and ongoing threat. It's a Dementor. This speaks volumes about the immediate psychological and utterly debilitating impact of their despair-inducing power on him. It's the fear of the feeling they inflict, the trauma they force him to relive.
That makes sense. It's a more immediate visceral dread.
Exactly. His arc in confronting this fear is central to the book. It happens through learning the Patronus charm from Professor Lupin. As we discussed, conjuring this charm requires intense concentration on a powerful, genuinely happy memory.
Finding happiness to fight despair.
Precisely. It's not just about waving a wand, it's about actively generating a powerful, positive emotional force from within himself to repel the negative.
And this journey culminates in that incredibly powerful, almost magical moment by the lake.
Oh yeah. Harry, having traveled back in time, witnesses his past self and Sirius Black being completely overwhelmed by a horde of Dementors, on the verge of receiving the Dementor's kiss. He knows the figure across the lake is supposed to save them.
He's waiting for his dad, basically.
He thinks he is. Gathering all his strength, concentrating on the memory of his friends, he manages to conjure a fully corporeal Patronus described in Source 6 as a blinding, dazzling silver animal.
What follows is a moment of profound realization for Harry. He initially thinks the powerful Patronus that saved them was conjured by his father, a figure he saw from across the lake that resembled James. But then he understands, with a rush of empowering clarity, it wasn't his father from the past. It was himself, his future self, who cast the charm.
Such a powerful moment of self-realization.
It really is. This signifies him finding an immense, deep source of inner strength and courage. It's the realization that he possesses the capacity to generate his own hope, to fight off despair using his own inner light and positive memories. He didn't need someone else to save him. He could save himself.
And the form his corporeal Patronus takes is incredibly symbolic and resonant. A stag.
Prongs.
Just like his father James's animagus form, prongs. This directly links his internal strength and his newfound ability to combat soul-crushing fear to his family legacy, to the love and memory of his parents. It's a powerful connection that shows the past isn't just a source of trauma, it's a source of strength and pride that Harry can tap into.
This book fundamentally reshapes Harry's understanding of his family and his legacy in a way the previous books couldn't, could it?
Absolutely. He learned significantly more about his parents' school days, about the tight-knit group of friends they were a part of the Marauders, and the secret activities they engaged in together, like becoming animagi to support their friend Lupin.
He starts to see them as real people, not just martyrs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he gains vital, life-altering new connections, discovering that Sirius Black, the escaped convict, is actually his godfather. It's a profound revelation. It connects him directly to his family's past in a way he never knew was possible, and perhaps most importantly, after his difficult years with the Dursleys, offers the potential for a real, loving family figure.
Someone who actually knew and loved his parents.
Right. Similarly, Lupin becomes much more than just a teacher. He's a significant link to James, providing Harry not just with crucial magical instruction like the Patronus charm, but also sharing memories and insights about his father.
Little anecdotes he'd never heard before.
And that fan opinion we mentioned from Source 3, highlighting how Lupin initially felt more like a father figure to Harry than Sirius does, adds another layer of depth to this relationship, showing the different kinds of connections Harry forges with these remnants of his parents' world.
Yeah, Sirius is maybe more like a cool older brother figure at first, while Lupin is the calm, steady presence.
Perhaps. This growing understanding of his parents and their friends, learning about their loyalty and their secrets, provides Harry with a deeper sense of identity and belonging. It's a powerful counterpoint to the trauma and betrayal he experiences, demonstrating that the past can offer strength and pride, not just pain and mystery.
So ultimately, Prisoner of Azkaban represents a significant escalation in this series, wouldn't you say? Not just in terms of plot, but in the emotional complexity and mature themes it explores.
Without a doubt. It deepens the narrative significantly, focusing on the lasting impact of trauma and loss, the devastating potential of betrayal, and the profound difficulty of discerning truth from appearance, of knowing who to trust.
Justice versus truth.
Exactly. It powerfully explores concepts like justice versus truth, demonstrating how an innocent man can be wrongly condemned and suffer for years, while the true guilty party lives amongst the very people he harmed, successfully hiding in plain sight.
And it touches on second chances, right? Through Lupin and Sirius.
It does, but also the tragic fact that Peter's escape unfortunately prevents them from achieving full closure, justice, or a peaceful reunion in this book. That chance is snatched away.
So frustrating. The introduction of the Dementors, not just as antagonists, but as personifications of debilitating despair and the re-experiencing of trauma, brings a new psychological depth to the challenges Harry faces.
Right. The threats are no longer purely external villains. They're internal battles against fear, loss, and emotional pain. That's a big shift.
And the intricate plot twists, the morally complex character revelations from Snape's debatable motivations to the controversial actions of James and Sirius in their youth.
Yeah, all that gray area.
And the exploration of themes like forgiveness, judgment, and the inescapable influence of the past all set the stage for the even more mature themes and challenges that will define the later books.
Definitely. Loyalties will continue to be tested, the complexities of character will deepen, and the lines between good and evil, already blurred here, will remain a central focus. This book really lays the groundwork for that.
And the book's immense success, evidenced by its bestseller status and overwhelmingly positive reviews mentioned in Source 7, demonstrates how deeply readers connected with this shift towards deeper exploration.
People are ready for it.
And the richly detailed secondary world that Rowling continued to build. This world, while magical, also incorporates realistic emotional struggles and, as some sources note, like Source 1, can even reflect social problems through metaphor, showcasing fantasy's power to comment on the real world.
Wow. We've truly traveled from the dread surrounding Azkaban and the initial mystery of Sirius Black, through the chilling despair inflicted by the Dementors, uncovered the incredible hidden history of the Marauders, and even twisted our understanding of time and fate with the Time Turner. It's quite a journey.
It really is. This deep dive really lays bare how fundamentally Prisoner of Azkaban reshaped Harry's understanding of his own past, forced him to grapple with the true, messy nature of trust and deception, and highlighted just how complex judging characters can be when you finally uncover their full story with all their virtues and flaws.
It truly does, and it leaves us with a lot to ponder, doesn't it? Given everything we've discussed from the sources, the actions of the Marauders in their youth, Snape's enduring hatred and undeniably complicated motivations, and Peter Pettigrew's ultimate self-serving, cowardly betrayal.
Yeah.
What does it truly mean to understand a person's character? Can we ever truly judge someone without knowing their full history and all the complexities driving them? And specifically, can someone like Peter, after causing so much devastation and living a lie for so long, ever find true redemption, or is justice, in some form, simply something he can't escape forever?
Oof, a heavy thought indeed, and one this book absolutely prompts us to consider long after the final page. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.